Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the conscious community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. So, tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. I am absolutely honored today to have with us my beautiful friend Belinda, who does a modality that is called Neuro-Energetic Kinesiology, which I am fascinated by. So I think you will introduce yourself a lot better than me. But what I would love to tell the listeners is that we met online first through Healy, which is the frequency device, but then we met face to face when we were working the Mind Body Spirit Festival together in Brisbane. And you are just such a beautiful soul, and I love that you're in my life. So welcome, Belinda, to this call.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here, Katie. And likewise, just it's been an amazing, journey for me, but then also interconnecting with you and a huge tribe of people that are so like-minded and so into all things healing, energetic, vibration, frequencies, and just basically being more consciously aware of, how you can contribute to humanity and contribute to each other, which is
Yes,
it. Yes.
so good. So can you please tell the listeners and myself what it is that you do and what makes your heart sing?
So I am, as you said, a neuro-energetic kinesiologist, and I fell into kinesiology many years ago through my own journey, personal journey of like transformation, and a lot of childhood trauma and so forth was there under the surface. But it wasn't until around about 2012 that I had a couple of things that happened in close proximity. So starting with a sort of burnout, I was completely fatigued. I was in the fitness industry before I got into kinesiology, and I tragically lost my mum. Just my mum went into a coma, and I was almost ready to have my third child, which is my daughter, who is an amazing little soul. And my mum never actually got to meet my daughter, so that was really hard. And there was a lot of, unresolved grief probably around about that time. And then at the same time, my marriage broke down. So I was
What
very
a
much in the middle.
culmination, my goodness.
Yeah. And it led me to where I am now, which, as I would probably think back to those days of how I'm like a completely different human or a different version of myself. And it was through all that, personal experience of going through lots and lots of turmoil and, anguish and so forth. But knowing too that I had it inside of me, that the willpower to actually pull myself out of that state that I had found myself in. And so what really lights me up now is being able to share that with other people, and, connecting with other souls who are on, varying degrees of needing healing. Some are needing to figure out what their purpose is, get clarity around that and direction. Some are going through, relationship issues, and others, it can be something more physical. So there's such a myriad of things that you can work with in and around kinesiology. It's a very soul enriching modality. And with all the things I tried, it was the one thing that actually really catapulted me forwards and allowed me to understand more than anything about myself. And so to be able to share that with others and help them and guide them, I think, yeah, it's an incredible journey, and it's still ongoing. I'm still learning. I learn from my clients each day. So that part of it is really, really satisfying.
Absolutely. And I love how you've just said there that you learn from your clients, because I feel that is like, and a client will come to us for a reason, and it's, yeah, obviously their reason, but it's to do something within us as well. And I love that you
Absolutely.
shared how you went through it to grow through it, and that you're now helping others to do that as well, because sometimes you get to a point where you're like, I don't know what to do next. And, you know, hopefully they get pulled
100%.
into your vortex and you can help to guide them to where they need to be.
100%. And I think what you're talking about there is like the roadblocks, and some of these things are actually hidden in like blind spots. And so we don't know what we don't know. And so if there's things that are there that have been there subconsciously from when you were a young child, which most of our stuff, because we're so multi-layered, has been there since that sort of those first 7 years of life. you often can't unravel it yourself. And so to have that external person that can work alongside of you, and yes, of course, through my own experiences, I've been able to hold space for others now because of the compassion that I have through what I've experienced, but also, I can meet them with where they're at. And I think that that's a really, key component. And when you're hitting those roadblocks, you can often get to a point where you want to give up. You've tried all these different things and nothing seems to be working. And it's in those sometimes such subtle shifts that we can find the greatest amount of growth.
Oh, 100%. And with kinesiology as your profession, what drew you to it, and what was it that it did within you that's made you love it as a modality?
Well, interestingly, it actually found me. You know how they say like certain things will just find you. I didn't necessarily, and I did a post on Facebook just recently about this. I don't think I necessarily went out seeking kinesiology. It found me. And years and years and years ago, I was in my early 20s dating this lovely, lovely man. For a couple of years we did, and we went our separate ways, and he's still in the healing realm and I'm doing my own sort of thing, but we ended up going our separate ways. And at that time, I had a problem with my shoulder. I kept having this issue with like a kind of a frozen shoulder. And he took me to this kinesiologist, and I remember it was in Pomona. I used to live on the Sunshine Coast back then, and it was in the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. And I went to see this kinesiologist. I couldn't even pronounce the word. And I just recall her having these charts on the walls. And she did what was probably a different style to what I do now. The neural part is the fact that we get into the neural network of the brain and see where all that emotional congestion is actually stuck. But back then, she would have been doing like Touch for Health, which is the earlier stages of kinesiology. And I just remember her looking at these charts, and she was using these, doing these funny finger things, which are your finger mudras, to read the body. And she brought up some things, some emotional things, and it was so on point with what was going on for me personally. And she started working down near my feet, and I'm like thinking to myself, why is she working at my feet when I've got the problem in my shoulder? But it was around my, believe it or not, direction and moving forwards, and I was quite blocked in that way. And she opened up some pathways. I remember crying a lot in this session, and that was the first time I'd come across kinesiology, but I shelved it. And I had a period of my life where I just pretty much ran away from anything that I thought was kind of spiritual and a bit too woo-woo. And I was, running a very different life back then, and probably running away from my own problems. Years later, I stumbled upon it again. And this time I was in the realm of, I worked for a Shore Slim clinic, which it's like a nutritional kind of clinic that you help people lose weight. And a guy came in and he wanted to do a demonstration around kinesiology. So once again, had a profound effect on me. And I would have been probably in my late 20s at this stage. And still I was like, this stuff is amazing, but still wasn't completely. I was still in the fitness industry and the wellness industry.
Go, do.
Yes, high achiever and high performing and so forth. And it wasn't until my mum passing, actually, and that range of events that happened so quickly in quick succession, that I'd hit the wall. I had fallen into a heap, and I went to see a lady at the time who was a massage therapist, intuitive massage therapist / she did a bit of kinesiology, so she could muscle test and figure out some things out, and she really worked intuitively with the body. And it was that moment on that she told me a few things that day. And I left that session, once again, lots of crying, lots of releasing. And I went home, and the first thing I did was I went and searched. I Googled kinesiology. And initially I didn't find the college that I ended up studying through, which is NK, which is the Neuro-Energetic Kinesiology style, which is more like energy medicine, which is the main difference between sort of more of a standard sort of kinesiology and this style that we do. And it just blew me away. And I did this search and thought, I don't even know how it was, but those moments, when something drops in, that was the moment I had. So that's what I'm meant to be doing. But I really didn't completely understand what kinesiology was. So it was an interesting journey to get to that place. But I really believe truly that we are meant for certain things, and that there was certain things that were activated inside of me from years
Mm.
ago, but I potentially wasn't ready for it yet. It is a
Yes.
modality that you definitely need to be ready for because it can be very confronting. It will open things up,
Yep.
and you need to be willing to look inside and dive deep into your stuff.
100%. My
Yeah.
husband once bought me, probably about 10 years ago, a gift voucher to see a kinesiologist because it was maybe on Groupon or something. I'm not sure. And I went along, and honest to God, I was like, this guy's a quack. Like, he was tapping my head and talking to me about this. And I had these empty vials in my hand and like copper rings. And I'm like, Marcus is like, how was your session today? I'm like, I don't even know what happened. I can't explain any of it. But now I look back, I'm like, whoa, that guy was muscle testing. He was working with the
Yeah.
body. He was a kinesiologist. Like, I get it now, but I was not ready at all. And
No.
as a practitioner, when you have people come to you that aren't ready, can you tell straight away?
Yes, yes. They can often be a little bit reluctant to, let's just say it this way, you'll be asking them questions because you'll be discovering things within the muscle testing and it's revealing certain things that are sitting underneath the surface. Now, if they're not ready to hear that, you'll notice that, yeah, their words won't match the energy. So they'll be sort of almost in a bit of a state of denial, maybe sometimes avoidance. And sometimes it can just be so big that you've opened something up that they're not quite ready to go there just yet. And that's when I feel they might need a little bit more body therapy. So they might need some more body work, or they may be needing to go and do a little bit more research to satisfy probably the mental faculties and then revisit it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the telltale signs can be just that, sometimes avoidance or not being able to fully even express how they're feeling. So there can be some real disconnects going on there. And when we can start to reconnect, the heart to the brain.
Powerful.
Very
Perhaps,
powerful.
perhaps that's why old mate was getting me to tap my head.
More than likely. The good old heart coherence, which is why I love the Healers, because we can run that program too, and it can also help us vibrationally.
My favorite program. Yes.
Yeah, heart coherence.
Can you please tell me what, in your own words, like what is kinesiology for those listeners that don't actually even know?
Yes. So it really is the study of movement at the end of the day. That's when you break down kinesiology, it's the study of movement. And where the neuroenergetic part comes into it is it's obviously the neural emotional pathways of the brain and how that moves or how that signals the body, and whether it's sending good signals or whether it's disrupted energy. And that's what then creates almost like chaos and energetic disturbances. And then we can start to see that transform into physical manifestations. Now, kinesiology can also be used. You'll probably see there's degrees that you can go and do. It's quite a few course providers for that, but it's more where they'll do rehabilitation with muscle movement. Our style, yes, we use muscle testing and we can use any muscle on the body. The most common one we use, though, is the brachialis because it's close, it's on the arm and we can just easily use it. It's quite nice and comfortable for the person receiving, for the client. But it's a beautiful way of just tapping into what I would consider to be the unconscious, deep unconscious or subconscious thought patterns and emotional issues that people may be carrying, congestion in their body.
Oh, so fascinating that we're able to actually facilitate that.
Yeah.
And there's so many people I feel walking around at the moment that don't even know about that, let alone know that there's someone they can go to access that.
Absolutely. And my the man that I studied through, which is Hugo Tabar, he actually defines it really beautifully. He goes, it's actually a stress management tool. So that's essentially what kinesiology can do for you, because we are all carrying around invisible stress. Sometimes we can see stress with the eyes because we'll see it in a person's facial expression. We'll see them in their body language. We may see even stress where someone has had it for so long that they'll start to round the shoulders and the heart chakra will be very closed off. But other types of stress are actually invisible, even down to EMFs and all the sorts of things that we're having to combat each day. External pollutants, things we're putting on our skin, and all those things can create imbalances in our body. So to bring you back to homeostasis, is to clear and diffuse stress and to let go of that need to live in the sympathetic nervous system, because we need to be able to kick over to that parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, the rest and
where-
digest.
Yes, and we're more balanced, we feel more present.
Oh, this, I just think as you're speaking of the youth of today all over the world, that, high levels of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, all the things, it's like, yes, environmentally, what they're putting on their skins, caking their faces with makeup, the
Yeah,
environmental toxins of relationships because they're all, ugh.
100%, Katie. And we also will mask those things. So we are great humans of habitual patterns of behavior. And often when we're masking something, others may not even see the inner pain that the human soul is experiencing. So yeah, to be able to kind of cut through that and do it in a very non-intrusive way, that's probably what really appealed to me when I fell into kinesiology and was receiving it myself. One, then as a student, and then to let go and release my own shit, for want of a better word, to then be able to work with other people. Because if we haven't worked on ourselves, how then can we hold space for others?
Oh, I love that you've just said that. That is so important. And I feel like with the culture of all these beautiful holistic modalities coming out into the world, there are many healers or workers in the space that haven't actually done the work to get to that level of self-attunement that they need to hold that space for others, or to be able to really help them to experience it on that deeper level.
100%. And it can be quite taxing if you're not working on yourself. So even as a practitioner, I've been doing kinesiology for roughly 10, 11 years now. And in my early days of my career in this, I wasn't very good. I was an overgiver. I must say I still give a lot now and contribute a lot, but I wasn't very good at always taking care of my own vessel. And we have to be very aware of that. Like when we're working with other people's energies, is just being able to hold our own center, to clear ourselves daily, to use grounding techniques, to be able to do the meditations and so forth, or utilizing a device such as the Healy, to always be bringing us back into balance so that we can hold that space for another human and see them where they're at.
How beautiful. And do you use Healy in your kinesiology sessions as well? Is it part of what you offer?
Yes, I do. And what I'm finding with clients through conversations with them is it amplifies what we're working on. It just blows me away each time when, for example, I will do an aura chakra scan, or I'll do a resonance.
My favorite.
Yes, and the things that will come up out of that are so on point. And initially, when I started using the Healy, I was almost doing it like little tests to kind of go, okay, let's see if it matches up. That was probably a little bit of the ego getting in there, going, or the mental mind wanting to understand it.
Yeah.
Being a bit blown away by this tiny little device. Like, how can it do these things? Like, if it does what it says it can do, my goodness me, this is ancient wisdom, in phenomenal technology. But it really does. It gives such clarity, and it definitely amplifies and magnifies the session. And people walk away and they've really, really felt a lot of the energy moving.
It'd be a good bridge for those we were talking about earlier as well, that are, not necessarily open to just the, you've muscle tested and told them a particular thing and they're holding back, whereas you've just shown them physically where this device is saying, exactly what's happening in their subconscious, in their energetic space. And you're like, so this is what we were speaking about before when we were doing the body work. And it's just that bridge, I guess, between the two.
Very much so, and a beautiful fusion of the two. And because it's the information field, we can gather this beautiful, accurate, information that can then help and guide that session to deeper places as well.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
And do you use Healy with your clients in between sessions as well?
I do. So I use it both personally for myself. I use it during the sessions, and I'll often do also distant aura scans. I do have a lot of clients that are distant clients. So I'll do exactly what I do from a face-to-face, but I use it as a surrogate, and I'll be muscle testing into myself. But prior to a session, I'll often use the Healy to tap into their energy and also be able to send them the frequencies as well. So
That's
they're getting
fantastic.
still the benefits of that.
So tell me more about this remote work that you do. Like quantum physics fascinates me, and the ability that we can even do this.
Yes.
How is it different? Like, say I'm here in Brisbane, you're up north in far north Queensland. How can we do that?
Yes. So my only explanation, apart from the fact that I trust in the quantum field,
Yeah.
and I've done it for so long now that it just makes sense to me.
Proofs in the results.
Yes. All I can say, and through other studies I've done, is that time and space just collapses. So time collapses. So it becomes such that when I'm tuning into your energy, if you're in Brisbane and I've tapped into that and I use a methodology to do that, like an actual process, I'm literally just reading you in real time. So I'm actually gaining access to information within your field of energy, wherever that has been on whatever timeline that has been. And I know that that can be a little hard for people to get their head around, but if we can understand that time is not necessarily linear. And so when we're working with someone remotely, it actually, the best analogy I've given to people is just like when something goes wrong with your computer and you have an IT expert being able to work remotely and move your mouse, you'll see it moving on your screen, but you're not moving it.
Yeah.
The IT tech is, because he's actually just dialed into your IP address. That's what I'm doing with a remote session. I'm dialing in to your IP address, which is your unique signature, which includes your full name. I always use a date of birth. And then I use a process to ensure that I'm 100% in that other person's energy, 100% in their body, and that I receive no side effects from conducting the session. And I do a few other things in and around that. And to be really honest, due to the fact that there is no interference and it's a really clean, clear channel, I often find that I will experience deeper things with my clients that way, because we're working really, really closely connected, just pure energy. And so sometimes things will actually be coming through me.
Yeah.
Physical sensations through my body that will line up with what they're feeling right at that moment in time, which might be a little bit out there, but
I love it.
I
This
think
stuff
we're all
fascinates me.
open to it now.
Hence my podcast being called The Curious Collective. I love this stuff.
Yes.
This is amazing. I'm so glad that you're here with us. So I can tell that you are just so passionate about what you do. And thank you so much for joining us. So if there were listeners now that wanted to know more about, neuroenergetic kinesiology, or the way that you utilize healing in between sessions, or how they can utilize it to amplify the kinesiology sessions, perhaps, what advice would you have for them?
I would say for anyone that is looking particularly at working on things like self-belief and self-worth and self-acceptance, then most definitely like kinesiology is an amazing modality for them to tap into. If you can imagine that it's the shift from 3D to 5D, because when we're in 3D, we just think of density, like things are just heavier, things are slower. When we're slipping into a different dimension, 5D is where beautiful things take place, where manifestations just happen, when we're in flow state, when we're in alignment. So
feels so good.
Yeah, so the advice I would be giving people is to clear out the clutter, to be doing those meditations, whatever resonates with you, to be accessing things like the Healing device, which is a beautiful support for you, to really work with your energy, because everything at the end of the day is energy and vibration. There is no doubt about it. We can apply the creams and we can take the potions and the pills and the this and the that, but they really have what I would consider to be like a very short-term gain from that. We don't often get to the core root of it. And the beauty of things like kinesiology, things like healing, even with meditation, all the things, they help us to get to the core root, but particularly with kinesiology, because it really does allow us to, through muscle testing, access that part of the brain that gives us the feedback. It's the biofeedback, and it's instantaneous. So it's cutting through the bullshit, it really circumvents the conscious part of the mind, and it goes into the unconscious and the subconscious. So the more we clear ourselves and become a cleaner channel, then the easier it is for us to live on purpose and to live in flow and to manifest. everyone.
Yes, goosies. What brilliant advice. Thank you so much. And listeners, rewind that a little bit and just have a listen to it again because there's some really good stuff in there. Thank you so much for joining us today, Belinda. And what is the name of your business?
Yes, so you can find me and all these juicy bits on Living Balance Kinesiology. So I have a business page through Facebook. I'm also Living Balance Kinesiology through Instagram. They're probably the two main places to find me. And I also have a website. And on that website, there's lots of frequently asked questions, a really good backstory of how, a little bit of what I've shared today of how I came into kinesiology, and what it is that I do to help other people. And some little videos in there as well, some shares that I've, things I've experienced and extra resources that people can go to so that they can kind of get a feel for what, not just what I'm about, but what kinesiology is about. Because at the end of the day, we're here to help people, and it's really important to find the right kind of practitioner for you as well.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And yes, I absolutely love everything that you've shared and so much more curious about kinesiology, even though I thought I knew what it was about. So
It's
thank
been
you.
amazing. Thank you,
Thank
Katie. Thank you for
You're
having
so
me.
welcome. And I love your posts on social media, by the way. Every single one of them, I'm like this, yes, yes, the whole way through. So keep up the good work.
Speaking the same language. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.